Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our research unit for the month of May. And maybe you've got some family members, you've got brothers and sisters, and, of course, mothers and fathers and stuff like that. And sometimes you kind of mispronounce their name, or you actually call them by the wrong name. Has that ever happened to you before, Stephanie?
Well, I haven't done it, but my mom used to go through every kid's name before she got to mine. She would look right at you and just start, Jen, Lynn, Eric, Mark, what's your name? And she would get frustrated, but finally she would spit out Stephanie. But it happens a lot, yeah.
Well, that's if you're from a big family, I suppose.
Yeah.
But my family's slightly smaller than yours. My mother never really messed up our names. But I did notice one time that my older brother called his son by my name. That was kind of weird. And then I've noticed myself referring to my wife by my sister's name.
Oh, there you go.
And sometimes I refer to my daughter as my sister's name. And I'm wondering, what's going on there? Am I losing my marbles? Am I going crazy? What is this all about?
It happens a lot. Yeah, no, it doesn't mean you're losing your marbles. They've done some research in this particular area and discovered some interesting things. But I think everyone has called a friend or a family member by the wrong name at least once. It just happens, especially if you're, really telling someone a story or you're kind of engaged in what you're saying and you accidentally say the wrong name. What you don't want to do, guys and gals out there, is call your current boyfriend or girlfriend by your ex's name. That's not cool. That happens sometimes, and that's not fun.
Yeah, watch out for that.
No.
That can happen, and I suppose the same thing is happening there. It's psychological. It happens to us all, and I'm sure most people can just laugh it off. Oh, you called me by your sister's name instead of my name. That's okay. It happens sometimes, but we are asking this question, and we're also trying to answer this question. Why does your family call you by the wrong name? So let's get to it. Let's read through the entire contents of our lesson now, one time.
Do your family members ever call you by your sibling's name? Do you ever accidentally call a friend by a mutual friend's name? Most people experience this awkward situation once in a while. Misnaming is common among pals, acquaintances, and relatives. However, this isn't a random mistake. Instead, it relates to the mental network that our brain uses to classify relationship categories. Because of this, misnaming often follows the pattern of mistakenly calling someone by the name of a different person from the same social group. Parents often call their children by the child's sibling's name or even the family dog's name. Names that sound similar, like Dave and Dan, also contribute to mix-ups. However, only a small number of misnaming cases occur because of physical resemblance between two people. In fact, parents are likely to mistakenly switch their children's names even if the children are different genders and don't look alike. Moreover, misnaming doesn't appear to be a sign of aging or an indication of cognitive decline linked with Alzheimer's or another similar disease. It happens regardless of age and gender. Therefore, there's no need to worry that your mom's losing her marbles if she calls you by your sister's name. And the next time you misname someone, just remember you're fortunate enough to have many loved ones to keep track of.
Okay, let's explain today's lesson so that between the time now and the end of our lesson, you will be able to understand more of spoken English than you did at the beginning of our lesson. That is our intent here, to help improve your listening comprehension ability. And the title for today's lesson is, Why Does Your Family Call You by the Wrong Name? So yeah, that's an interesting way to go about this, to call one by a name, okay? You were called by your your mother's name, for example. This is a phrase we sometimes use to talk about basically what your name is. So why does your family call you by a different name? Why do they call you the wrong name?
Well, we're going to find out. You can see that it's a research unit, so we're going to be looking at some research that scientists did in this area or this field. So why does your family call you by the wrong name? We're going to find out. Now, do your family members ever call you by your sibling's name? Here I would say by my siblings' names. I've got a lot of siblings. Your sibling is just either a brother or sister. Now, if you say sibling, we won't know if it's a sister or brother. That doesn't tell us the gender. So if people look at you curious and say, well, sibling, is that your sister or brother? It's because sibling doesn't tell people whether it's a guy or a girl. So sibling just means brother or sister. So do you ever accidentally call a friend by a mutual friend's name? A mutual friend is just a friend that you both know. So a friend calling you by a name of a friend you've never met, that's not a mutual friend. Tom and I have mutual friends who also record or are in the business of recording. We both know them, so they're our mutual friends.
Exactly, friends we have in common. So yes, if I have a friend named Dave, maybe by accident sometime I'll call him John or something like that because I'm thinking of another friend. Maybe they have similar personality characteristics or something like that. Well, most people experience this awkward situation once in a while. Yes, it can be awkward. It can feel strange or unusual, and you may need to explain, hey, why did you call me John? My name is Dave. Well, misnaming is common among pals, acquaintances, and relatives. So these are some common relationships here. Your pals, your friends, your buddies, also your acquaintances, people that you know. You may know them pretty well, but they're not exactly your pals. Maybe people you work with or your classmates or whatever. You are acquaintances. And relatives, of course, are people in your family. Your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, etc.
That's right. So, yeah, acquaintances, you don't know them very well. Maybe you've met them on occasion, but you don't know anything too much about them, so they're acquaintances. So, yeah. However, it says here, this isn't a random mistake. If something's random, it means it happens without planning. It's a spontaneous thing. It isn't planned out. It wasn't done on purpose. So this isn't a random mistake, something that happens without planning. So what is it? I wanted to talk about random, though, before we move on. If you do something at random, it just is done. For example, if you play the lottery and you're wanting to win, at the lotto or the lottery, you can use either of those words. Supposedly, the numbers are picked at random, so you can be assured that people aren't trying to cheat, hopefully. So at random means it's done without actually having a plan involved. So everyone has an equal chance who bought a ticket for the lotto. You could say, yeah, I had some time, so I went to some random stores on my way home just to see if I could find that particular hat I wanted. Random just means you hadn't planned on it. You just stopped by some places. So, yeah, random is used quite often. Now, instead, it says here, it relates to the mental network that our brain uses to classify or group things together into categories. That's what classify means. You take different things and you put them in groups according to their characteristics or traits. Classification is the noun form. Classify, of course, is the verb to classify.
Right, so we're classifying all these people into different categories. Your pals, your acquaintances, your relatives, your business associates, etc., etc. And because of this, misnaming often follows the pattern of mistakenly calling someone by the name of a different person from the same social group. Okay, so because of this classifying of relationship categories, misnaming therefore follows this pattern, and the pattern is mistakenly calling someone by the name of a different person from the same social group. So in other words, it goes from different categories into the same social group. So basically, to put it simply, you're just kind of getting mentally confused. Which category, which person, and then a name just comes out that isn't correct.
Right. Parents often call their children by the child's sibling's name. We've talked about that. Or even the family dog's name. Actually, that would be kind of funny. Most dogs in America don't have real names. Like we named our dog Maverick, which isn't really a name. It comes from the movie Top Gun. A lot of people will name their dogs things like Fluffy or Spot or, Charger. Usually you don't hear dogs that are named like, Robert or Steve, things like that.
Well, our pet dog's name was Fred.
Oh!
We called him Fred. And the cat's name was Kelly. And those are people's names.
Those are people names, yeah.
But I don't recall anybody ever mistaking the pet's names for a person's name. Hey, Fred, can you come over here and clear the table?
No,
that never happened. But I guess according to this article, that does happen sometimes.
Sure.
Maybe it has happened in your family. Check your family members out and see if that's ever happened. And that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。不晓得啊，你的父母亲会不会把你叫成你哥或者是你妹的名字，或者是你姐的名字呢？今天的这个文章很有趣哦，就是我们有时候会不小心把别人的名字叫错，那这到底是一个什么样的原因啊？文章其实一开始跟我刚刚问你的是一样的，就是借由一个问题，然后来引起你对这个文章的共鸣。在第一段的第二句话当中 ，Do you ever 什么 call a friend by a mutual friend's name？ 在这里的 mutual 指的是互相彼此的，你们共同的朋友的名字。你是不是曾经把 A 叫成 B 朋友的名字呢？当然，应该是第一格。我们来看4个选项。根据上下文的文意，如果你的父母亲把你叫成兄弟姐妹名字，一定不是故意的嘛，是不小心的嘛。所以接下来的第二句这个问题呢，通常也是顺着文意，你是不是也不小心有叫错呢？所以在第一题当中选 D accidentally 不小心意外，这是文章比较通顺的。那么第三句，大部分的人其实都会觉得这种 awkward situation， 当然指的就是叫错名字这样子的一个情况。大部分人还是偶尔会发生啦。这个所谓的叫错名字这件事 misnaming 在朋友啊、熟人啊、亲戚之间是非常普遍的 common。 但是特别注意第5句哦，来一个反转 however， 但是这不是一个随机偶尔不小心莫名其妙出现的 random mistake。 怎么说呢？在第2个当中，我们看到 A 的选项，这里的 instead其实就是 in fact， 那么 B、C、猪呢，就是字面中文的意思。我们要特别小心，在第2个之后，这个副词之后加的是 it relates， 其实叫错名字跟 mental network， 跟我们的心智网路、心理的运作是有关的。不过这句话因为有个关系子句，所以我们从 mental network that 一直到句尾可以左右挂号起来，它修饰的是前面的这个所谓的 mental network。 好，我们在第2句前面讲到，这不是任意随机发生的哦，事实上它跟我们的心智有很大的关系耶，它是精准的点出事实，所以第2格应该要选 A 这个答案。那么当然就是因为我们的心智把这个同样分类的东西不小心存取错误了，所以通常叫错名字都会跟着这样子的一个模式当中产生，就是我们会把同一个 social group 同一个社交圈的人当中的名字呢不小心搞错，所以有可能父母亲把你叫成兄弟姐妹的名字，甚至不小心把你叫成你们家养的狗的名字耶。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi guys, welcome back. We're talking about some research that was done on why people misname others or call people by the wrong names. What does it mean? Does it mean they're losing their minds? Are they going crazy? Or do they have something like Alzheimer's disease where you lose your memory, or even dementia? That's another name we use for people who start to lose their memory. Usually that happens to older people. Actually, young people can call their friends or family members by the wrong names as well. And of course, that would not be a case of having Alzheimer's or dementia, which happens as you get older. No, it happens. And why does it happen? Well, we're learning here that the research showed us that we have this mental network that our brain uses to classify or group relationships together. And these categories are grouped together, classified together. Now, because of this, misnaming usually follows a pattern. You call someone by the name of a different person, but it's usually a person in the same social group. For example, I've used my mom as an example for this. She would never call her kids like her friends' names. She would actually go through all her children's names and finally get to the right one. But she never would call us her sister's name or names or even our dog. No, it was just usually her children. So that was a way to classify the names that she was calling us. Of course, it happened quite frequently, so we enjoyed it. We laughed.
It's kind of interesting also here because they've mentioned some names that sound similar, Dave and Dan.
Sure.
I've got a better example.
What?
My aunts, all the sisters of my mother, they had these names that were very similar. The oldest aunt was Jean, then it was June, then it was Joan, and then my mother's name was Joyce, which isn't kind of the same pattern of the J sound. Jean, June, Joan, and then Joyce at the end there.
Families like to do that, don't they?
It is kind of unusual. There was also a family in my hometown who all the kids had names that sounded very similar. There was Dawn, Don, Dean, and Dan. Okay,
Ooh.
Those names are very similar. I think the father probably did that on purpose to make sure they could tell the difference between those vowel sounds.
Well, we'll often find families who will name all their kids with the same consonant starting the name. For example, my brother and his wife decided to name all their children with the letter B. So there's Bridget,
Brenda,
Braxton.
Betty.
I'm trying to. They're different too. Bridget, Braxton, Bryson. And I can't remember the last one, and I'm happy he's not listening to this, so he won't know. But yeah, they're all B's. You'll find families that do that, but the example you gave, Tom, is they're even kind of matching the vowel sounds, which makes it very difficult.
It is. So, yeah, some names sound similar and they contribute to mix-up. They cause mix-up. And then only a small number of misnaming cases occur because of physical resemblance between two people. That may not be true in my case, though, but I'm not sure if this is the same thing. But a lot of people who are friends of my family always called me Scott, okay?
Yeah.
And that's my brother's name. I got called Scott a lot, and he was kind of an athlete. He was kind of famous in the town for doing track and field and stuff like that. I didn't really do anything in school, so they always called me by his name. It didn't bother me at all, but I think that kind of falls into this category. They kind of resemble each other.
Right. So names that sound similar, like Dave and Dan, also contribute to mix-ups. If you contribute to something, it means you add to it. You're helping in some way. So here, yeah, it helps or causes something to come about or to bring about something. So names that sound familiar would lead to these type of mix-ups or would result in these types of mix-ups. However, only a small number of misnaming cases occur because of physical resemblance between two people. And maybe that would happen if you had two identical twins and they were called the wrong names. That's a little different. So, yeah, it's very rare. Only a small number of misnaming cases occur because people look alike or look similar. So, in fact, parents are likely to mistake or mistakenly switch their children's names, even if the children are different genders. Yeah, that doesn't seem to matter because siblings would be in one relationship category. Remember, they classify names into different categories. So, yeah, it wouldn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. You're just one of the kids, and so your parents would call you maybe your brother's name, or if you're a guy, sister's name.
Yeah, my sister's name is Nancy, but I was never called that. But that may happen in other families according to this information.
Well, it happened in my family because my older brother is Steve and I'm Steph.
Oh,
and they're very similar. So, yeah, sometimes my dad would say, hey, Steve, I mean Steph. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, I think they're related. Stephanie is the female version of Stephen.
Exactly.
As far as I know. But
it is.
Like Charles and Charlotte
Yep.
are the same name, basically. But in any case, moreover, or in addition, misnaming doesn't appear to be a sign of aging or an indication of cognitive decline linked with Alzheimer's or another similar disease. So basically, this sentence is telling us that, hey, you don't need to worry. You're not losing your marbles. You're not going crazy. It's just something that happens to us all. It doesn't seem to be a sign of aging, okay? And it does not seem to be an indication of cognitive decline. An indication is just some kind of sign that something is the case. Hey, I just felt a little raindrop on my nose. That's an indication of rain. It's going to rain soon. It's an indication. It's a clue. And then cognitive decline just means your mental abilities.
Right.
Decreasing.
Yeah. Decreasing cognitive just means your mind, and decline. Something's getting worse over time. If it's declining, it's decreasing in some way. So decline, yeah. So don't worry about that. It doesn't necessarily mean you are getting dementia or maybe you're going crazy. None of those things. So, yeah, that's a good indication that it's not an indication that you have these issues. It happens regardless of age and gender. It can happen if you're young, and when we're young, we can remember lots of things. So, and gender has nothing to do with whether you're female or male. And moving on to the final paragraph, it says, therefore, there's no need to worry that your mom's losing her marbles if she calls you by your sister's name. Yeah, here's this phrase that we've been using off and on during the program is someone loses their marbles when their memory starts to fail and, they just seem to not be able to recognize people they used to, or, they're just not very sharp. If you lose your marbles, you kind of lose your mind. I wouldn't say you're going crazy. I think losing your marbles is kind of a phrase we use more with people who are, getting older and kind of forgetting things a lot.
Yeah, there are various ways to say you're losing your mind, whether you're going crazy or whether you're suffering from dementia or something like that. You can be completely off your rocker. You can be not dealing with a full deck.
No, yeah.
There's the various ways to indicate that. We're not trying to encourage you to use these phrases with your friends, unless you're joking, of course.
We use them as a joke. We do.
We do, but it does not mean that your mother is losing her marbles or she's not dealing with a full deck if she calls you by your sister's name. It's just a natural phenomenon, and it happens to the best of us. So just remember, and the next time you misname someone, you call them by the wrong name, just remember you're fortunate enough to have many loved ones to keep track of. And that's kind of nice. That's kind of your situation there, because you have such a big family, and you should feel grateful that you have so many names that you have to remember.
Yeah, I am fortunate to have a big family, and you're fortunate to have a lot of friends. So if your friend gets upset that you called them by the wrong name, just say, hey, you're lucky that you have my friendship. So hopefully people don't get upset or bothered by this. It's a natural thing. Doesn't mean you like someone better than someone else just because that name comes out of your mouth. It just happens. We get busy in life, and with life being extra crazy these days, I think we're going to see more of this happening, not less.
Right. So again, it's something not to worry too much about.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious as to whether this happens differently in different languages. Like in English, of course, it might happen in a certain way, whereas in Chinese, it might happen differently because names are kind of different. They're all, different syllables and tones and stuff like that. So maybe it happens differently. This is something that you all can discuss amongst yourselves. And that brings us to the end of our explanation. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
所以刚才讲的第一段呢，就是第一种原因。第二个原因呢，就在第二段这边第一句咯。Names that sound similar。在这里有个关系子句，先行词是 names， 关系子句从 that 到逗点前面这个地方，听起来相似的名字，比如说你有两个朋友，一个是 Dave， 一个是 Dan， 当然有时候会不小心弄错咯。而片语当中的 contribute to 就是导致什么什么结果。好，接着在第二段第二句的地方来一个反转，然而 however， 有一些情况并不是声音很像，而是长得很像的关系，但是这种的状况比较少。A small number of misnaming cases occur， 动词是 occur。第三格我们看到第三格前面形容词叫做 physical， 生理上的什么，所以就像我们刚刚讲的，第三个原因则是长得很像的关系，在外表生理上面的相像，我们答案选 B。 所以以上有三个原因，第一个分类，第二声音很像，就是名字念起来很像，第三长得很像。但是接下来 in fact 我们又要出现精准的事实咯。在比较这些原因当中，发现父母亲比较容易会搞混小孩子的名字，即便是小孩子的性别或者是外表根本也不像。那么同样在第二段的第四句当中 moreover， 除此之外呢，还有一些状况，因为经过比较之后，其实你也不用担心，这里的资讯就很重要哦。因为 misnaming 所谓的叫错名字，其实不是一种 aging老化，或者是 an indication， 是一种什么样呢？ cognitive decline， 也就是认知上面衰退的一种迹象。这里有一个关系子句的简化，先行词是 cognitive decline， 那么关系子句从 linked 一直到句尾的地方， linked 前面省略的是关带 that 跟 be 动词的 is。 好，所以所谓的认知衰退就像是阿兹海默症啦，或者是其他的失智症。那既然我们已经谈到跟老化或者是生病无关，所以第四个的答案呢就比较明显是 B regardless of。 这个所谓的 IT 是 misnaming， 叫错名字会发生，根本无关于年纪或者是性别。所以下一次我们到了第三段咯，如果妈妈又叫错名字啦，或者是下次你自己叫错名字，你应该要很幸运的觉得你自己有很多 loved ones。 最后第五格，你自己有很多的好朋友，喜爱的人，可以让你记录在头脑里哦。所以第五格选 C， 文意上是最正确的。以上是我们的今天内容，我是安娜，我们下次见咯，拜拜。
That's it for today. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again for another edition of our program next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom.
Goodbye.
See ya.